Welcome into the Black and Gold Report. Matt Sabados here with you. I look forward to spending the next 30 minutes of your Saturday here on the UNCP Sports Network. Only a couple of more shows this year, but we've still got a lot to get to this week. We'll chat with Ben Miller in our next segment, and down the line, we'll highlight some Braves superfans that have made a very real impact on Braves soccer. All that's coming in due time, though. Let's get started running through the two seasons that wrapped up this week. First off, we don't get the chance to talk about it much, but cross-country standout Silas Kipkowicz was the lone Brave to compete at the D2 National Championships in Indiana this past weekend, posting a 10K time of 32 minutes, 19.2 seconds, taking 60th out of a field of 249 runners. Remember, though, Silas is only a freshman, winning the regional championship and PBC Runner of the Year. Just a drop in the bucket for what can be seen in the next few years from the Brave. Turning to Braves volleyball, they hit the road to the Georgia College-hosted PBC Championship Tournament.
Braves looking to keep their season alive against USC Aiken, unable to do so in the first two sets, falling in quick succession, 25-14 there, 25-19 there. They bounced back in set number 3, though. This kill from Madeline Ashwell, she had 5 on the day, gave the Braves set number 3 by the score of 25-23. But USC Aiken was able to battle back, win their 25th match of the season, and knock the Braves out of the PBC tournament in 4 sets. The season's over for the Braves. They fall to 7-26 on the season, but a 4-win improvement over last season, and a lot of positive outlook with only one graduating senior for head coach Ellen McGill.
Meanwhile, Braves wrestling has taken the mat a couple of times over the last week. Following the conclusion of the 37th Pembroke Classic, Sammy Petticos picked up 4 straight victories en route to a 149-pound runner-up finish at the Georgia Open, and was followed by Eric Mills notching a 7th-place finish in the 157-pound class at the Wolfpack Duels at NC State to wrap up the weekend for the Braves. Few days off here for the Braves for the holidays before they head to sunny Florida for the UCF Open next week. And now that we've reached the meat of November, we can really get into some basketball. Let's start with the women's side of things.
Braves looking to keep it going with a hot start to the season against Mount Olive as they try to pick up their 2nd straight win. They get it started pretty quickly, and the 3-ball was very much on their side. Ebony Stevens got the Braves started. Melanie Horn drilled a couple, and the Braves went into the locker room at half with a 2-point lead. Mount Olive turned things around a little bit in the 3rd quarter, but the Braves blew the doors off in the 4th quarter, led by this one. Avery Locklear, 3 for 5 from beyond the arc in the second half. The Braves as a team shot 8 for 13 from 3-point range in the second half to walk away with a beautiful 88-74 victory. 2-0 are the Braves on the season. They'll hit the road for the first time this year against the number 14 ranked Wingate Bulldogs. That's going to be coming your way tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Be sure to catch it on the UNCP Sports Network.
And last but not least, this segment, of course, we've got the men's team to talk about. They've already got a few games under their belt.
Things got started quickly for the Bulldogs here. Amarius Logan, first points of the day from a 3-ball on the right wing. Braves find themselves in a quick hole, but they turned things around. Micah Kinsey picking up the errant pass, taking it coast to coast, and laying it in. The offensive boards were their friend in this game, too. Nigel Grant, the second chance doesn't go, but Pruitt, with the 3rd chance opportunity, the hook shot in the paint gives the Braves a bigger lead. Braves were having trouble on the day, though, stopping the big duo of Kerrigan Farley and Nico Robinson. Robinson picking up the start, throwing it down there, gives Wingate the lead once again. Doesn't mean the Braves didn't have things going their way either, though. Micah Kinsey, he does it at least once a game, picks up the steal on this play and throws it down himself. 2 teams trading blows up until this point. We're still 1-point game. Tyrell Kirk, though, changes that from the wing, puts the Braves up 2 with that tray. Each team trading blows towards the end of the half, but Marco Haskins delivers the final dagger to close things out. Braves got into a little bit of foul trouble coupled with that 3-ball, and Wingate goes in a half with a 7-point lead. Braves had to find an answer in the second half, and it didn't come very fast. The defensive board for Wingate, and here's Nico Robinson once again, throwing it down with authority, making it an 8-point lead, the largest of the evening to that point for Wingate and the Bulldogs. And the Braves needed an answer fast. Akia Pruitt here with the jumper to bring the Braves back within 4, made it a much closer contest midway through the second half. Nigel Grant helping the Braves' cause there. The low block gives the Braves their first lead since the 4-minute mark of the first half, but Wingate wasn't going to give up just quite yet. Bulldogs snuck off to a quiet little 5-point lead, And a pair of back-to-back three-pointers, one from Lolar here and another from Haskins here, widened the gap to 11, largest of the night for Wingate. Braves able to give it another chance, though. James Murray Boyles forcing the steal. Here comes Micah Kinsey. Throws it off the glass. Braves back within 3 with only 2:50 to play. But they weren't done yet. Grant finding Watts at the free throw line, and he settles it in for a 1-point game. Braves found themselves into bits of foul trouble. Lots of free throws here and there from Wingate and the Bulldogs, keeping them into this contest. But here's the final play that knocked the Braves out for good and secured the upset for Wingate and the Bulldogs. The inbound from the baseline, Kirk finding Watts, splits through a triple team but loses the ball with no whistle, and a timeout called by Wingate to secure the victory, and that brings it to the final. 71-68, the Braves drop their first of the season. They're 2-1. As they take a bit of a break for the Thanksgiving holiday, they'll face off against Mount Olive this Monday. Lumbee Guaranteed Bank Court at 7 o'clock. Catch it on the UNCP Sports Network.
We'll chat with Ben Miller in the next segment. We've still got a lot to get to on this edition of the Black and Gold Report, so stick around, keep it here. We'll talk to you in just a little bit right here on the UNCP Sports Network. Back and on the Black and Gold Report, Matt Sabados with you. I thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to join us. And I'd like to thank in person Ben Miller for joining us as we set to talk a little bit more basketball. Coach, thanks for taking the time out of your day.
Thanks, Matt.
Team, good start to the season. Obviously, as they're ramping up the title defense, still non-conference portion of the season. Through these first couple of games, would you say the expectations of the team have been met, or have you say they've yet to be met?
Well, we're a work in progress. Our defense has been pretty good. Teams are shooting about 40% from the floor, which is pretty good, and we're out rebounding our opponents at a good clip. But offensively, we're still trying to find our rhythm and stride, which didn't surprise me with a lot of new players trying to, fit into the system.
You mentioned the rebounding, how you're really pulling down off the glass against the other teams. What have you been doing in practice and during games, adjustment-wise, to just make your team so effective? Because you're in the top 10 in the nation so far in overall rebounding margin.
Well, we try to recruit good rebounders. I mean, that's the most
that's a good
important
start.
thing. Yeah. And just emphasize, it's what you emphasize every day in practice, and that's something that we always try to emphasize.
You mentioned the new guys on the squadron. Of course, you got a couple of transfers, but the freshmen have made some of the biggest impact. Tell me about them. Jamal Bryant, Tyrell Kirk, David Struther. Combined, they're averaging just over 20 points per game off of the bench. Not only does that speak to their ability to blend into your offensive scheme well, but just to you and your coaching staff for having a scheme that allows them to enter it so smoothly. Elaborate more on how they've done the first few games with your team.
It didn't feel real smooth at Wingate. We struggled there for a while offensively, and there's going to be a lot of ups and downs with those guys. So we have tried to simplify it a little bit where they're not overthinking. They can trust their instincts and play a little bit more because they're all good players. They have good instincts. But sometimes they're deer in headlights out there when they're not sure where they're supposed to be. But they're making progress every day.
But the older guys on the team, the Brandon Wattses, the Nigel Grants of the team, still make it easy for them to mix and match, even when a couple of them may be having an off half or an off night, right?
Yeah. We've asked a lot out of Brandon Watts in particular. His natural position is more on the wing. We've asked him to take over some of the play calling and decision-making responsibilities, and hopefully as the young guys progress and develop, that he can, slide back over the wing and be more aggressive, looking to score and attack the basket and just go out there and hoop. Now,
I wanted to ask this later, but Watts, his three-ball game has been a little slow to start the season, but he's still finding ample opportunities to score, and his assists are way up compared to his pace from last season. Do you think do you think what you're asking of him to run point for a little more of these plays is contributing to that?
Probably, but we really need him to look to score a little bit more.
Yeah.
I do think it's difficult when you're trying to run the offense, get the team into the right sets, and also
find yourself
being
open.
Aggressive score. So hopefully as the young guys progress, we can have a little more of a natural rhythm and rotation out there.
But how about those assists, though? Like I said, are already up to a greater clip. That must say something for just overall progression from a junior to a senior season, for him to find a lot more openings and create a lot more points, not just from himself.
Yeah, he is a good passer. Sometimes, he can get a little tunnel vision, but he's doing a better job when the defense collapses of kicking and finding the open guy, because he is going to be a target. You know, him and Nigel, preseason all-conference, a lot of scouting reports are geared towards making life difficult for them, seeing some double teams and collapsing defenses.
You mentioned Nigel. One of the, I want to talk about him. One of the key points that I had heard coming into this season is that with his size, there's always room for improvement off the glass, and he's done so at a pretty excellent clip through these first few games. He was averaging a double-double through the first 2 contests, wasn't able to pick one up at Wingate, but still hauled in a few boards. How have you felt about his progression when it comes to those overall rebounding games?
Well, I think he realizes that's a huge key to his development, his progression, and really living up to that all-conference, potentially all-American billing, is rebounding at a high clip.
How does it feel, though, having just so many guys you can rely on? As I said, if one of them's having an off half or an off game off of the glass, you've got Nigel Grant, who's getting close to averaging double-figure rebounds. You've got Akia Pruitt, who's, I think, through this point of the season, only 1 rebound shy of averaging double-digit rebounds per game. And then you've got Watts, who's pretty much one of the fastest guys on the floor, and with his size can really haul in some great boards. How does that feel?
Well, it's nice to have multiple rebounders, bigs, but also JB off the bench, and then a lot of guards that can go get it off the glass. And so I do think that puts a lot of pressure on the other teams to block out. So I think we're offensive rebounding pretty well. I don't think we're blocking out in defensive rebound. Sometimes guys rely on their size and athleticism instead of the fundamentals of blocking out and then going to get the ball. So that's something we got to improve.
Akia Pruitt, do you think that might be one of the key improvements for him? Because he's still only a sophomore and still one of the best in the conference in overall rebounding. He's one of the most athletic players in terms of overall defensive play when it comes to stepping up and blocking out in the paint. How have you feel his progression's been going?
He's an active player, defensively blocking shots. He's quick enough to switch onto a guard on a ball screen and keep him in front. And then, as far as rebounding, he's so quick off the ground, and his instincts are pretty good to go get the ball.
Into his junior season now, as we swap from Pruitt, James Murray Boyles picking up the starting roles for the first few games. How's he been handling that, in your words?
I think he's handled it fine. I think one of the reasons we did that is when we moved Watts to the 1 off the wing, we needed somebody to start at the wing. Yeah. So I don't know that that'll continue, and I think JB knows that he's going to play, and he played really well off the bench last year, and I think his minutes are still going to be about the same,
similar
whether he's starting or coming off the bench. So that's something we're still tinkering with and trying to find the right starters and rotation off the bench.
So is that something that we might see a change of, not necessarily midseason, but maybe towards the start of the conference season once the freshmen start to get a little more acclimated with the offensive scheme? Watts moving back to the wing, James Murray Boyles perhaps moving back to the bench?
Well, maybe sooner than that.
Really?
Maybe in the next few games. I think we got to let the freshmen play through some mistakes. Defensively, they've been fairly consistent. I think offense will develop over time. Yeah. But I do think it'll help Brandon and really JB also. He's more of a undersized, skilled 4 than he can play on the wing. But I think moving Watts back to that wing position will hopefully help our rhythm.
So you're saying we might see some more of that in these final few non-conference games of the season before the title defense really starts to ramp up?
Yeah, I think so.
So that should be fun. Moving on from players individually, looking back at the Wingate game, you guys had to fight through a lot of adversity in that contest, but as a coach, you must be pretty proud of your team still to be able to keep into that contest with all the adversity they had to go through, because there were some issues with the black and white, there were some issues off the glass. It was a hard game fought all around, but your team trailing by 11 at 2 separate points in the first half and the second half still brought it down to a one-possession game at the final buzzer.
Well, I mean, it's our defense and rebounding kept us in the game. We just weren't very good offensively for a good stretch. We had a lot of turnovers. Second half, we shot it a lot better, and we attacked inside out a lot better. But we didn't shoot it very well. We still had our chances. It's a tough place to play. They played really well. I think sometimes you got to realize that other team, they're practicing too, and they played extremely well and had a lot to do with us not performing at our best offensively. So got to give them a little credit too.
3 games to start the season against the South Atlantic Conference. You got a healthy dose of those teams, but you didn't face off, obviously, against the heavy hitters, Lincoln Memorial and Queens, but you still got a good taste. What did you feel from the style of play that the South Atlantic Conference is bringing to the table this season?
Well, they've got, it's a great league. They'll probably go about 5 or 6 deep in teams that have a chance to be NCAA tournament teams. And, them along with the Carolinas Conference, Barton and Mount Olive, who we're about to see, all those teams are going to be in the mix for those, 8 spots in the NCAA tournament. So it's good to play those in-region teams that I think all have a chance really to compete to get to the tournament.
Now, looking from this non-conference portion, though, after this Barton and this Mount Olive contest, we finally got the Peach Belt Conference season starting and the real, true title defense to see if you can hold on to the outright crown that your team came into the season holding. What do you want to see polished the most from your team heading into the start of the conference season?
I think just finding a rhythm offensively. And typically this time of year it can be a little bit ugly with the ball handling, turnovers, just overall execution. I've been fairly pleased with our defense. Statistically, we're ahead of where we were last year at this time. Offensively, we've just got to keep growing.
Still one of the top teams in the Peach Belt Conference, though, at least when it comes to just overall points scored per game through this non-conference portion of the season. That just speaks a testament to the caliber that your offense can bring to the table. And boy, it's just going to be fun to watch once they finally get firing on all cylinders like you'd like to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. We have a lot of weapons, and starting with, the talent and the unselfishness. So I think that's a good place to start when you got guys that can score the ball but also share the ball and create for each other. Now it's just learning to work together and, just fine-tuning and continue to improve every day.
All right, Coach. Well, as always, we appreciate the time. I thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you down the line.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Head Coach Ben Miller here on the UNCP Sports Network. When we come back, we've got a few Braves super fans that we're going to be highlight from Braves soccer. Keep it here on the Black and Gold Report. Segment 3 of the Black and Gold Report underway. We'd like to thank Coach Ben Miller for stopping by with us as always. But now, for probably the final time this season, we're going to turn our attention to Braves soccer. But we're not going to highlight the women on the field. We're going to highlight the fans in the stands.
Well, if you've ever been to a Braves soccer game, you've most definitely heard them. The Black and Gold, Barmy Army.
They have different chant for a lot of people. Like the most popular is probably the Twins one, and then they have one for me. They have one for Stacy, and it's just nice, when you do something good.
It really does lift our spirits. I mean, you go back to that Columbus State PBC championship game. I mean, the last 10 minutes, they were just going mental up in the stands. It was just incredible.
The masterminds behind the Barmy Army, Ed Owen and Nick Watson, both hailing from across the pond.
We saw women's soccer and straight away we're like, look, we're gonna have to see what's all about, see if they're any good, and see if it's anything like the football, soccer we have at home. And straight away we sat there and thought, you know what, we'll make this a part of our home.
They know us. They may not have class with us or anything. I don't really see them around campus, but they know what we like and they know our names and stuff. And it's different because they watch soccer at home, so they know about soccer.
I see them as a team. When we have a game, they feel like they need to come, and we feel like they should come.
Yeah, we've got a real love for it.
American fans have never really seen anything like that. I mean, barmy, first of all, barmy, the word barmy, no one understood it. It's an English word that basically means crazy.
As a European, I'm used to that, the singing and the clapping and the dancing and the poking fun a little bit at people.
When we see Lars around campus, he's always willing to stop and have a chat with us, and it went from after the second game, he started recognizing us, and then we more and more after every game he'd stop and have longer chats with us, and you could just tell he loved us being there.
It really does lift our spirits.
they're in this with us, and maybe they're not on the field, but the way they impact the way we play is just amazing. And yeah.
Because we missed soccer so much, we had become feeling quite homesick, but with the team and with the success of the team especially, it just made you feel more at home. It's just made us feel so welcomed and so accepted, and these people like will remember this forever.
Yeah, I think the whole thing has been absolutely incredible. I never thought that at the beginning of the first game we went to, that by the end of it I'd have been to Georgia and Tennessee, 2 states I've never been to before. I never thought I'd be making friends with all these people, and obviously the success they were able to get. I'm so grateful that I was able to be a part of that. They probably would have been able to do it without us, because the team and what Lars has done is so great. I'm just so grateful that they were able to make my semester, and certainly something I'm never gonna forget.
Well, it just goes to show no matter where or how far you go, you can always make somewhere your home. We're going to step aside for one final time right here on the Black and Gold Report. Stick around, though. We've got more coming up here on the UNCP Sports Network. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the UNCP Sports Network. For all of our fine crew here at our Old Main studios, for Ben Miller, and then, of course, for Ed and Nick of the Barmy Army for giving us the opportunity to chat with them and tell us their story. And as always, we'd like to thank you for joining us and taking a little time out of your Saturday. Be sure to catch Braves basketball tomorrow as the ladies hit the road against Wingate. But until then, we'll talk to you next week. This has been Matt Sabados for the Black and Gold Report here on the UNCP Sports Network.